This is the Aptitude Outdoors podcast, where we interview travelers, explorers, and outdoorsmen and women to bring you the best tips and stories from around the world. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. If you can, help me out, go down below, hit that subscribe button. Today, our special guest is Mike Balonek. He's one of my favorite nature and outdoors photographers here in Northwest Ohio. And recently, we went on a trip to Hocking Hills, and he made a pretty cool video about that. So I'll throw a link up here somewhere. You can watch that. And yeah, Mike is an amazing photographer. We talk about his gear, we talk about his travels, his ventures, his van life stuff that he's been doing, all this cool stuff. So let's dive right into it. All right, let's do this damn thing.
Yes.
Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Thanks for driving all the way out here.
No problem.
You know, before we dive into the nitty gritty of the podcast, just want to say, been following your stuff on Instagram for years.
Yeah,
and
likewise.
You were one of the first people I asked to come on the podcast, and it's like a year and a half later you finally made it on. So
I remember that.
I'm happy about that. But you used to work like super early in the mornings, and it was like,
yes.
Can you do it like at this weird hours? I'm like, nah, I ain't getting up that early.
No, well, not only did I work super early in the morning, I was working Saturdays, most Saturdays too. So it was like pretty much had Sunday, and that was it. And then if I wanted to do something, then had to work around that. So yeah, it got a little crazy there.
Yeah, and I really think that from like a Northwest Ohio photographer, I think you have some of the best photography. I mean, I see a lot of pictures. I mean, I love Instagram.
I wouldn't agree with that, but I appreciate it.
That's because you're humble.
Yeah.
But you have a look to your photos. Like when I see a photo, I'm like, Mike took that before I even like check the Instagram name or anything. Like your color grading's great. You recently got into video, which we will talk about later because we just went on a little trip last weekend.
Yeah, we did.
But I want to know before we get too crazy with all the whack shit we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
How did you get into photography and the outdoors in general? Because, you know, someone like me, I grew up outside for the most part. So I always like to get that backstory.
Yeah. Well, you got an hour podcast, so that is probably going to fill it all up right there.
Perfect.
So as a kid, luckily, I grew up right down the street from Ottawa Park, which isn't like a grand place to go. It's definitely not like compared to Oak Openings or some of the metro parks around here. It's not super great, but we had some woods and we could play in the woods, and we spent a lot of time down there just playing tag and like hide and seek and stuff like that. My grandparents also had a cottage when I was growing up, about 4 hours north of Toronto. Not super secluded, but it was like about maybe a third of the lake had some cottages and the other side didn't. So it was like, it wasn't super busy, mostly only on the weekends. So if we went up there during the week, you more or less had the whole lake to yourself. And so like growing up with those kinds of things around, that definitely helped kind of inspire me. I mean, from the earliest age I can remember, I always wanted a cabin in the woods just because my grandparents had their cottage. And I mean, if they hadn't sold it, I'd probably be living there right now. But here we are. So aside from that as well, I did get into Boy Scouts. Actually, I should say I got into Cub Scouts. I made it up to Weeblo, and then I dropped out and to actually pursue gymnastics instead. But my dad would take me on the Appalachian Trail every other year growing up, starting when I was 10. So we would do like a day. We started off with a day hike the first time, and then we'd do like 2 or 3 days every other time, and just kind of do a new section of trail each time. Not necessarily like trying to bust ass or anything, but just to enjoy it and see what we could do. So, and that was always a lot of fun. That definitely instilled the just enjoyment of hiking, you know, like not just being outdoors, but walking through the outdoors and just that experience of traveling slowly, you know, like I remember having a debate with a friend not that long ago about, cause he's really into mountain biking, and he was like, well, why don't you get a mountain bike and you go out and do photography mountain biking? And for me, it was always like, well, then I would be going too fast to catch the things that I want to see, you know? So like all these little details you pick up as you're hiking and walking, as Thoreau calls it, sauntering, you know, like that's just really important to me, you know, to be able to pick that up. So moving on from that, when I was 19 years old, I actually went to Juneau, Alaska and worked as a volunteer there. The end goal was to be that I would live in a cabin in the woods somewhere up there, but unfortunately didn't pan out. Because of a little bit of my rebellious nature. I was a volunteer at a middle school, and I was against standardized testing. I wrote a letter to the editor about my stance on standardized testing, and the principal, who was my boss, didn't appreciate my stance on standardized testing. So needless to say, that one didn't last. And so, yeah, now I'm back in Toledo after that one. But it still was definitely one of those times in my life that are like pivotal, like literally, like I am defined because of that 6 months that I lived there. My appreciation for the outdoors grew tenfold. That was where my desire and love for photography started. In fact, my brother-in-law gave me, I don't know if you remember, like I picked this up and I didn't even drink it. Sony had these little, they weren't even little at the time, but they're called, I think it was like I don't even remember what it was called, but it was these series of digital cameras, like one of the very first digital cameras, and they had the floppy disk in the side of it. He gave me one of those, and so his reasoning was, I'm living in Alaska, I have no camera, I can't take any pictures of anything that I see up there, and he thought it was kind of a travesty. So he gave me this camera. It was, I don't even think, a whole megapixel. And if I saved files at full size, I could get maybe about 10 pictures on a floppy disk. So it was not at all effective way. You'd have to carry a package of floppies with you while you're out hiking, which if it rains, like that's not really great. Over. Yeah, so that was kind of how it all started, though, like climbing around on these mountains in Juneau, and this crappy little digital camera that actually had battery issues too on that top of that. So like, not only did like I have the challenge of the floppy disk, like I'd get halfway up the mountain and then the camera would die, and I'd be like, oh, like there's this beautiful view I can't even get a picture of now.
Is that like pre-rechargeable batteries?
Yeah, they were. Well, no, it had like the same kind of like as a DSLR would have, like maybe not the same kind, but like removable like that. But they just died on me really quick, and I was a volunteer. I didn't make crap for money. So plus I don't even know if there was like a place you could buy something like that in Juneau at that time. Like I think they had a Kmart, but I went in there once and it was like all the shelves were empty, so I never went back. It's not really worth my time.
Part of Alaska that people don't tell you about, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it was because it was Kmart or if it was because Alaska, because this was like around that time Kmart was like hurting really bad, like just before Sears bought them, or the other way around, however that worked out, I don't remember. But yeah, it was like they were really hurting. They were about to file bankruptcy. And yeah, I went in there to buy a package of CDs, and there was nothing.
The good old days, having to burn your files to CDs to store them.
Right.
That's stuff we take for granted right now. Like right now, we're sitting here recording in 4K. We got really nice microphones. Back in the day, I remember burning everything to a disc, and if that got scratched, game over.
It was done. Like there was nothing you could do about it. Yeah. So I mean, those were more or less the things that kind of set me on the path that I am now. I mean, photography was kind of like hobby status for a long time. It was something that I just did every once in a while, would fall out of for a while and then get back into again. And then eventually there was a point though where I started doing a lot of like iPhone photography and stuff like that. Yeah. And started to really get into it. It started to kind of become more of a regular occurrence. And I had a friend who unfortunately her boyfriend at the time got murdered. And so
not good.
Yeah, she was into photography, so I was like, "This is destiny." That you've seen some of my videos. She was into photography, and she needed an outlet to just get out of her head, so she isn't sitting there grieving all the time. And so I had offered to go out, like have her go and take pictures with me. And so having someone else going with you as well, like, kind of reinforces habits, because if I don't feel like doing it and she does, then we're going to go do it, because she needed to get out and get away from her depression. But on the flip side, if I wanted to go out and she didn't, I'd drag her ass out anyways because she needed to get out. So, and it worked as a healing form for her. And for me, it like I say this in my bio, it melded my passions for nature and the outdoors with my passion for like technology and computers and stuff like that, because I'm also kind of a computer nerd. So being able to take my photos home and tinker with them on the computer, learn new software and stuff like that, learn new tricks and stuff with that software, it's always been an interest of mine. And like now that I'm getting into video, learning how to do all of these things in Premiere Pro and just all of, I mean, I would like to get into After Effects here a little bit more too. Just learning these things and getting a feel for them. It's always kind of exciting for me.
Yeah, and I have that same path because I grew up kind of like always interested in the creative side of things. I didn't get in photography until way late. You know, like I always assumed that was for people that were rich and had a lot of money and like you could afford cameras. And then I started meeting all these people who were not rich and did not have a lot of money, and they are all great photographers. Right. So it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of like being in a band. Like you just have to really want to do it. And I really like it because, I mean, obviously everything I do is like media based, like photography, video, podcasting, like those are like the three media outlets that exist at this day and age. So I'm in the same boat. I really love technology, but I also really love the outdoors. It's kind of like opposites, exact opposites.
It really is,
And
although in some ways that you think like they can kind of meld too, like the solar panels on top of my camper, for example, like those are great for the environment in many ways. Like I'm not polluting or anything by using that, and that is really incredible technology, which is fascinating to me. So.
Well, since you brought it up, the camper, man, like we went out to Oak Openings a few weeks ago. That was the first time we ever met in person. Yeah. Well, that's probably like a month ago at this point.
Yeah. Actually, no, that interview, Midwest Metal Show.
Oh, well, yeah, that barely counts because we were like, what, 16, 17, 18, 19?
I wasn't, but
20.
you guys were still pretty young.
Young.
I'm a little older than you, but
just by a bit.
Just a little.
Yeah, that was that. Well, the first time we've met in our adult lives, I should say.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was way before I was doing video back then, but it was like shitty, like handheld, like Sony Handycam stuff with like just like on tour with the band and stuff, just filming behind the scenes crap.
Honestly, that's what the Midwest Metal Show was. I literally had a Sony Handycam and would just go to shows and start filming bands and go up to them after they're done playing. And, hey, I filmed your band. Do you mind if I use it in my show? No? All right, delete.
We'll use it anyway. Nobody cares. That was like the like beginnings of YouTube too. That was like a long time
Honestly,
ago.
I feel like if we would have stuck with that, like we would probably have like 1 million followers by now.
Just because you're the only channel back then.
Yeah. There would have been like we would have been probably the first. Actually, I did look it up recently, and there still isn't a channel specifically dedicated to Midwest metal.
Revive it.
I had thought about it.
Well, if anybody could do it, it's you. It's awesome.
Just another thing on the plate.
Yeah,
might as well.
Yeah, I mean, screw it. But so the camper idea.
Yes,
I know.
Back to the subject.
You've been having some issues, but it's the whole. It's basically the van life.
Yes.
Like ideology. So you bought this camper. It's really sweet. I've been in the camper.
Yeah, thank you.
What's your end goal? Maybe if not in this version of it.
Yeah.
What's the end goal with this?
So for a long time, like I've wanted to travel. Like there was a period of time I was into the whole like Christopher McCandless into the wild hitchhiking thing.
Minus the dying.
Yeah, minus the dying. And then I realized that like I'm kind of a pussy and that I would like to have like a shower and stuff to go to, and that like just living in a tent in parking lots isn't really like
not your game.
Not quite my cup of tea. So I shifted that focus and realized like, well, if I could have something to travel in, that would be a lot more comfortable to do, you know? Yeah. So that was my compromise. Like I could travel, but I need some place to stay.
Work.
And so I did some research for a long time. I mean, literally for years, the van life thing kind of started to spring up. I started doing a lot of research into that with the end goal of wanting to get like a Sprinter style van, either a Dodge ProMaster or Ford Transit probably, but Sprinters are super expensive and those are a little bit cheaper. But the realization was eventually that that's way out of my price range. The cheapest Sprinter style that I could find was around $15,000 versus the motorhome I paid $4,000 for. So, I mean, the entry level to get in is quite substantial, but also then the thing, and I knew this going in, when you buy an old used camper, you're going to have an old used camper, and you never know what you're gonna get. And that's what I got. I got something that has a bunch of surprises all the time, unfortunately. And I've had some good trips out of it. We got to the UP and we went down to Hocking Hills last month in it, and drove it home in a freaking snowstorm, which was something I never want to relive. But
I could imagine.
Yeah, no, you got semis just flying past you, going like the speed limit, and you can't even drive like 25 because you're just sliding everywhere. But yeah, that was terrifying. But I like the thing. I'm really proud of all the work that I've put into it, but I've kind of reached a point where it's at least kind of got to go on the back burner for a little while because of there's still more work that needs to be done in it. I was hoping that it was done. I was anticipating on going and traveling, even quit my job to do so, had a bunch of money saved up to do it, and it ended up just kind of being a bust because things just keep breaking.
Yeah.
Which, this is the nature of the beast. And like I said, I knew that going in that was a possibility. That's the reality of it. So now on to plan B.
Well, it's such a common thing nowadays. I don't want to say common. It's a popular thing nowadays that people really want to do this van lifestyle. But like, I don't think a lot of people realize how not easy that would be to do. Like, you're well suited for it because you kind of just like go on the fly. Like, we planned a trip to Hocking Hills.
Yeah, it
was just kind of like, hey, let's do this, and we just did it. So like, a lot of people can't function like that, like swing it lifestyle. But like, being as photographer, being someone who's into videography, you could definitely be on the road making money in some way, shape, or form.
That's the hope.
Yeah. But down the road, I definitely think you'll end up doing that because it's just something you want to do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean,
appreciate the faith, man.
Yeah, I mean, your shit's good though. You just need to just make it fucking happen. That's all you can do.
My thought was it was going to be kind of a if you build it, they will come thing. Yeah. No offense against like the Toledo area, but I don't know that you can make like a YouTube career doing travel videos, living in Northwest Ohio, more or less. Like,
I don't know.
Just too flat and boring, and there's not enough anything.
I just don't think the interest is there specifically.
No. The West Coast is very trendy, to be fair. Like,
the
Southwest.
Even with Aptitude Outdoors being based out of this area, I still travel and do other stuff.
Right.
But like, I love this area. I think there's a lot to explore, a lot to do. We have one of the greatest park systems.
Right.
Well, it was literally voted the best park system in the U.S. recently.
Yeah.
And then we have just so much easy access to other areas regionally.
Right. And the river too. Honestly, like I think that river is like one of our like most underappreciated assets that we have here.
For sure.
And all of those things are beautiful, but they're just not things that people are necessarily interested in if you want to build a YouTube channel. It's unfortunate, but
if you're trying to monetize a YouTube channel, you need you
need to make things that people want to buy.
But that's kind of the opposite of what I've done with Aptitude Outdoors. I've always wanted to bring people's attention to the Midwest and where we're at, because it's not something that you would think of. But I would say, honestly, of all the people I follow, you probably do one of the greatest jobs of telling that story with photography and now video of like how beautiful this area can be. Because like, I'm not a great photographer. I'm just like,
I'd beg to differ, but
I'm okay. Yeah. Like, I know what I want, but I just like my limitations at this point, I feel like, are equipment based, just because I've kind of I don't have the right lenses that I want for some of the nature shots and stuff, but in that aspect. But you do a really good job at like painting this picture, and you do a lot on the lakes because that's kind of closer where do you live? Right. To you like Marblehead, you'll do Hocking Hills.
Metzger a lot.
Metzger Marsh.
I like Metzger just because of the ease of access, honestly, and that it's like I know it's in the direction of the sunrise, so like no matter what time of year it is, I can go there and I know the sun will be in the right direction for the sunrise. So I'm not like getting a sunrise that's like behind me and the lake is in front of me, which it happens in some spots. So.
Yeah, if you go to Western Michigan, that's not a good, not a good sunrise spot.
You're screwed. Yeah. No, I've had people offer too, and I'm like, are you sure? Like
sunsets though?
Yeah, sunset's perfect. Yeah, that's the place to be. And then you want to be on the Huron side though if you want the sunrise.
So I know this is a topic that you love.
Yeah.
A lot of people, which I think don't necessarily think is a great place if you're starting out as a photographer, especially if you want to get into nature photography.
Right.
Is just hyper focusing on the gear. I think my personal opinion with any sort of outdoors, anything gear wise, whether it's backpacking or photography, is get whatever the hell you can afford first and just learn the living shit out of it. I started on like a cheap Nikon that I like just learn the living hell out of it and then upgrade. iPhone.
Well, actually, whatever that little
any phone.
Floppy disk camera. That
floppy disk.
Floppy disk cameras.
Well, I had I started getting into photography real hard, and when I started Aptitude Outdoors, it was a real shitty blog until I realized that I couldn't write for shit, and I stopped. And I just went to podcast and video. Yeah. My grandpa had bought a Nikon D70.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
The like first ever DSLR body of a Nikon, I believe. Yeah. And I just learned that thing inside now to just take photos for my blog. Right. And then, up from there, now I have a Nikon D750, which is like not super crazy, like high-end Nikon.
Well, it's like considered a professional camera.
Yeah. So like what advice do you have for photographers? Because a lot of people take nature photography. There's a lot of really good photographers. It's super popular. But there's also people who like are really want to get better, and I think you're one of the best around here. So so what advice do you have for burgeoning photographers? I don't know if that's the right word, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good way to describe it. I think what you said about start with what you can afford and learn the hell out of it. I think that's actually really great advice. And I mean, that's what I did. That's what you did. And I think pretty much anybody that is anybody, that's how they start. Peter McKinnon is a big name. He's a name that I throw out there a lot just because he's somebody that I look up to. I love his photography. I had remember seeing a YouTube video that he put out where he actually went to his childhood house and like talked about him starting photography, and he got this little camera as a wedding gift, and he almost thought about selling it and just decided that he was going to give it a try. And he wasn't any good at it, but he learned the hell out of it. He would get in the backyard and take macros in the grass. I keep hitting the microphone. Hopefully you can cut out the little knocks on there.
No, we leave those in.
Good. This is for the raw authenticity. So learn the hell out of whatever you have. I really got into this using my iPhone, and I had a lot of fun with it. I got a lot of what I thought at the time were great pictures out of it, and I was really happy with what I was doing. The only reason I left the iPhone was because I wanted to start. I wanted the ability to zoom, basically, because that was before iPhones and phones in general had multiple cameras on it. You had the one camera, which I think was usually around 24 millimeter equivalent, and that was all you have. And so after a while, it was just like getting used to that and get that feel, and just in my mind, perfecting 24 millimeters. I thought, well, now is the time to try to grow out of this, And so I went out and I bought a Nikon D3100, which at that time was the cheapest Nikon they had. I bought it.
And those are great.
Yeah, no, they are really great. And I got it with two kit lenses, a 18 to 55 and a 55 to 200, the lenses that came with it. Yep. And I rocked the hell out of them for a long time. And that camera, I probably used that for like 2 years. And honestly, like I was telling you on the trip, I didn't even get to manual mode for like a year. I just shot with it and got really comfortable with it, got comfortable with the lenses. And then once I got to that point, I was like, okay, well, now I feel like manual mode is something I want to try. And honestly, as soon as I tried that, I regretted not trying it sooner, because just the amount of flexibility that you have with it. So that would be the other thing is, don't hesitate to push yourself. Don't be afraid of the results that you get, if they might be bad or whatever. Just jump in and try it, because you never really know. And I mean, I remember going out for the first time, like after learning manual mode and trying to do long exposures over at Wildwood. And I had actually made the mistake. I had thought that the lower the aperture number, the smaller the hole, rather than the other way around. And so, like, I have my aperture wide open, and I'm trying to take long exposures, and I'm just like, everything is all blown out. I can't see anything here. And they were awful, but it was fun. I got out there and tried it, and honestly, I was a little bit proud of it still, because long exposures was one of the things that, like, one of the reasons why I got into photography. Getting back to Alaska just briefly, when I was living there, there was a photographer in town who had a website, and he posted daily photos from around town, some of the different places that he'd hiked to. And like I'd see these waterfall pictures, man, and they were like, just the water was always nice and silky smooth, and it was the first time that I'd ever really seen long exposures of waterfalls, and I'm just like, it was magic. Like I had no idea what he was doing. I didn't know what a long exposure was. But seeing that is what drove me to want to learn it, and so. Just these things, you get inspired by them, and let them inspire you, and push you, and see how you grow from there. And just let it evolve naturally. And I mean, don't let people pressure you into thinking that you need to have high end gear or anything like that. I'm not going to be one of those guys that say gear doesn't matter, because it does. I mean, it's the same as like if you're building a house. I mean, having a hammer is nice, but having a nail gun is better. Like,
exactly.
So, I mean, it depends on the tool. But you're building a birdhouse, your nail gun's going to be a little bit...
overkill.
Yeah, definitely overkill. So, it really just matters what you're trying to do, where you're at in your growth. That would be my best advice for it. Don't let the pressures from the outside affect you. Just do your thing. Enjoy it.
Did you get to travel a lot when you were up in Alaska, around and like hike and do photography, or was it mostly kind of just like...
So Juneau specifically is landlocked. There's no roads in and out of the city. Like the only way in is either by ferry or flying. So obviously is a little pricey. And as I mentioned, I was a volunteer, so I didn't really make a whole lot of money to do that stuff. And honestly, there was so much around Juneau that it didn't really matter to me. I ended up making some friends with some other volunteers that were already up there for like 6 months, so they had already known trails and stuff like that. And so, I mean, we just went and explored, like, just around the area. I'm trying to remember, it's like hundreds of miles of trails just around. Like, there's more trails around Juneau than there are roads around Juneau. Like, let's just put it that way. Juneau's a major city as far as Alaska standards go, too. Yeah. Like, it's probably about the size of, like, I don't know, maybe Findlay or something like that, Lima, 30,000 people. So, I mean, there's some small skyscrapers there. It's legit. And so, like, having, like, just literally the ability to walk a mile or two out of the city and be surrounded by complete, utter wilderness, like, that's amazing. Like, and those were some of the best hikes that I've ever done. The most, like, just inspiring and, like, wild, like, just being able to, like, I ran into a bear once, like, that scared the shit out of me. But, like, now it's one of my coolest stories. And honestly, I don't regret it at all. Like, I thought that was a really exciting moment. So it's like, yeah, it was it's great for hiking.
Was it grizzly or was it a black bear?
I'm pretty sure it was a black bear. I didn't get a great look at it. It ran, whatever it was, ran across the trail right in front of me. If it was a bear, it was more or less adolescent. Like, this was like right in like March, like late March, I think. So they were like, hibernation season was starting to end. I knew that was the case. And I was just going up some switchbacks and I heard some like snarling and growling up ahead. And I was like, yeah, it's a little off-putting, but I kept going. And
you grabbed your floppy disk and shoved it in the camera.
Yeah, I started throwing them at him like Frisbee style, ninja stars. No.
Good defense weapons. We should go back to that.
It could be. You take those little metal slider pieces off, you could probably cut somebody with that. It's like, just make it into a little shiv.
We're bringing it back.
I'm bringing it back.
Sliders with the floppy disk without slider weapon.
Yeah, I'm all about it. And then you could take the platter out inside too and like just play Frisbee with it when you're done killing people.
Man, floppy disk. That is old schoolish. Yeah. I didn't even know cameras could use a damn floppy disk.
Yeah. No, this was like one of the very first digital cameras that they came out with, and that was your medium. The next version, if I remember right, took like mini discs that you could burn, which I don't think that model stayed around very long, just because that's like, you're buying a new mini disc every single time because you can only burn them once. So it's not really an effective way to do it. And then eventually they made memory cards, and now here we are.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Dude, you can buy a 256 gigabyte memory card for like $30 and just take unlimited photos.
Unless if you own a Z6, but
so you've upgraded, you're looking to upgrade more because you're a photographer and that's what you do.
Yeah, eventually.
But yeah, that's the problem with getting into video and photography, is that you just always want a new camera, even though you just have a sweet ass camera.
I just bought the Z6 like a year and a half ago.
Well, I watched a YouTube video this morning. I was screwing around while I was working, and I was just like, man, This guy was talking. He has like a super successful YouTube channel. I can't remember the name right now. I'm sorry. I'll throw it up in the video if I know exactly what it is. I just can't remember his name right now. And he was talking. He's like, yeah, I still use my $300 like DSLR. Like it was like it wasn't a Sony. It was like an Olympus or something. He's like, yeah, I still use it. I just upscale it to 4K and nobody gives a shit. And I was like, that's genius.
I mean, I was telling you though on the trip, like, I've been seeing a lot of videos lately, like YouTubers telling people like if you upscale your 1080 to 4K, like it will still look better like at 4K than it would if you do it for some reason. My theory is that it's something about the way that like it gets compressed when you compress it at 4K versus 1080, but something about it makes it look better, and I think I can confirm that because I've been trying it.
When I know my audience with their undying love for the podcast.
Right.
Everything's switching to 4K. So you're all in for a treat. You can see every pimple on our face when you watch it live. When you watch it live on YouTube, and all the last podcast I did, I had a giant booger on my nose and nobody told me. So that's
there's some incentive actually for people to not only listen to the podcast, but also go to the YouTube channel and listen to or watch Aptitude Outdoors, because you never know when Paul might have a booger in his nose. You might want to enjoy that.
Yeah. So thanks, Don, for letting me know I had a giant booger in my nose. I'm staring directly into your soul right now. But anyway.
Yes. I will always tell you if you have a booger in your nose. And honestly, I appreciate it if you would do the same for me. Don't ever hesitate.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, we've been getting together a little bit, shooting some stuff, going on. Like to do more because we had a great time. We went to Hocking Hills recently.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, man, that was a gauntlet.
Yes.
We woke up. I woke up at 6. I am, like, as I've stated many times to you, I am not a morning person, which for outdoors people is weird probably.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right.
All right, who is it?
I don't know. Potential spam.
Oh, you should answer it on live on here. But yeah, like, so I'm not a morning person. Like, hunting season for me is just hell on earth because I got to get up at like 4 a.m. But you're like... I was scared when I said, what time do you want to meet up? You were going to text me and be like 5:30. I was going to like, I'd rather just die.
Yeah. I thought about it honestly, but I'm not able to get up quite as early as I used to. Like we had mentioned earlier in the show here that my last job was an early one. I had to be toward the end there. I had to be in at 5 instead of 6. But so that was pretty much 4 o'clock mornings for me every day. Which honestly, like, in the summertime, like having that as a habit is great because you're up for the sunrise and you can go out and catch the sunrise every single morning and not have that like burden of like, oh my God, I don't want to get up, where it literally hurts yourself to try to wake up, I can't do that. I'm like a 6 o'clock now kind of guy. And I think that's like where I naturally lie now as like a grown up or an adult or whatever. But it still works for the most part. So
so we went on a gauntlet day trip to Hocking Hills, which is, what did you say, from Toledo, Ohio? It's probably like a 3 hour.
It took us exactly 3 hours to get home. So
3 hour drive. You were cruising some of it though.
A little bit, yeah.
But
only 10 over. Don't worry.
But we had a good day down there, and you took a really awesome video, which will be out.
Thank you.
By the time this podcast comes out, for sure.
I try to do Mondays, so. Hopefully this coming Monday it'll be out.
Yeah, it's a great video minus the shots of me being in it.
Nah, you did good. You did really good.
We've learned that I'm a great
subject.
I'm a great actor.
Yeah.
I can walk. I can like if you point to the railing on the video, I can put my hand
your hand
on
where it needs to go.
I can look like I'm very interested in the landscape.
You did great on that. And like
because
you even smiled just enough too, because like you want to look like you're happy. You're out in like the wilderness and you're having a good time and you're having fun with your buds, and it's like just walk around with a smile on your face like you normally would.
It's so funny because when people see the podcast or when people see the video, the final product of what you've done, it looks so polished and there's no people in the background.
Not so much. I always see all of the flaws. Like I literally,
that's 'cause you made it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is like that for their own stuff. But yes, I'm sorry.
But no, because like. So, like as a backstory, when we were there, we spent, I would say, a quarter of our day just waiting for people to pass because it was
a pain in
packed,
the ass.
just super packed. So, like, I don't know, I kind of am in this like weird position from myself because there's a point where it's like, do I be realistic with people about the outdoors? Because it's not always just secluded wilderness.
Right.
But then you also want to show the beauty of a place. So you don't
Yeah.
want to like just have videos of random people walking through your shots. But at the same
Yes.
time, like, it was weird because there were so many people there, and so many
Yeah.
people stopped to you and asked you questions about what
Yeah.
you're doing, because you had like a full rig out there.
Yeah,
You
I had my
the-
gimbal and everything. Everything was all set up, and then I was flying my drone around. So
People love that. Every
Yeah.
person that walked by was like, "What's that?" Like, you've
that's why I
seen a
brought the
drone.
business cards, was because I was bringing the drone. And I knew people would ask.
Yes, at least one lady. That
Yeah.
lady will probably never see this podcast, but
I hope she
might.
does.
Yeah,
lady, if you're watching, I hope you enjoy the podcast, and I hope you enjoy my video on Monday.
And one of her kids like threw a rock at your drone.
Yes. I was going through the video of that section, and I was literally watching all of the little splashes right in front of my drone, and I was like,
You little bastard.
yeah, you're lucky. You're really lucky. If that would have landed in the water, I would have made you go get it. The little
saw
6-year-old ass go climb in that cold ass water and get
I
fish
saw
on my
that
drone.
dude launch that rock at your
That dude
drone,
too.
and I
Well, the
was
little
just like,
girl was doing it too.
"Ooh."
Yeah,
like,
I would have
there's-
been a lot more mad if the guy did it. Like if the guy hit it, but I was thinking about it afterwards. Like I just like if I'm ever in a situation like that, I just need to keep it moving. That way, it's a moving target because it's going to move faster than they're going to be able to hit it anyways. But yeah, that was really kind of upsetting me.
Yeah, that's why I think you packed up the drone after that and didn't bring it out again.
Yeah. Well. No, that was mainly just because there were so many people there, and it was like every time I brought out the drone, it was like we'd have to wait 15 minutes just for me to be able to fly it because
Yeah.
I don't. FAA says you're not supposed to fly it when you got a ton of people around. I don't want to do that. It's a safety thing. Obviously, if it for whatever reason decides that it wants to go haywire, it could maybe like cut someone's head off or something. Like maybe
Got
not
it,
that much, but yeah, we don't want to hurt anybody.
It
so.
might break your skin.
Yeah,
at
you might
worst.
get a cut.
But anyway, to derail, I told you we'd go off topic like a million times. That's
it
what
is
I
what it
do
is.
because I have ADHD.
Yeah.
But so Hocking Hills,
Yes.
I've talked about it a ton on this podcast. Definitely, we were joking about this the other day. People were like, Hocking Hills, the hidden treasure of North,
Yeah.
or of not North, of southern or southeast Ohio.
Of Ohio,
Yeah, I was like,
period.
who the hell doesn't know about Hocking
Yeah.
Hills? Like, if you don't know about Hocking Hills and you live in Ohio and you like are into the outdoors, like something is very wrong.
Yeah.
Because I've been going to Hocking Hills since I was like a teenager. Because
Yeah.
I was like, where can I go outside? Like rudimentary Google, and
Right.
it's like just go to Hocking Hills.
Yeah.
So, but it's such a beautiful place, even though
Yeah.
it's always. I've never been there when it wasn't crowded as shit. And like you,
Yeah, I was talking about this. So, my advice to anybody, and honestly, I shouldn't tell anybody this because then it'll
ruin it.
I'm going to ruin it. But usually, what I try to do is I will literally get down there before sunrise. That's the only time you could literally get it during the week. Even like if you're on the weekend, sometimes you'll even have a few early birds show up. But yeah, I'll stay in the campground and I'll hike right in. That way, there's no wasting time. Just get it right done.
yeah, and it is a beautiful campground. They have a
Yeah.
lot of amenities up there.
Yeah, the cabins are nice too. I've stayed at the cabins numerous times, and I mean they're probably not like a lot of the other cabins in the Hocking Hills area where they're like more like luxury and stuff, but they're nice.
One of my favorite parts of Hocking Hills is there is literally no cell service at all.
Yes, you never have to worry about anyone bothering you.
It's so great. You can go down there and you just text someone like, I'm going to Hocking Hills, won't have cell service. You're off the hook for the whole day.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's so obviously lots of beautiful stuff to see down there. It's very accessible to
Yes.
anyone. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be in peak physical condition to
Right,
go to Hocking
right.
Hills. There's some climbing, but it's mostly like
There's some places where there isn't either.
you-
Ash Cave, you can just it's wheelchair accessible. So
you get down to the what do you call it? Hollow.
yeah, the holler as they say.
A holler.
Yeah,
You get
down there in the holler.
You get down there and holler.
Hey.
And you're down there and you
Yeah.
just hike and there's
Yeah.
there's some stairs. But what surprised me the most of this whole trip is how much shit you know about Hocking Hills.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind. We got to
Well-
Old Man's Cave. Why don't you give him the spiel about Old Man's Cave? Because
Okay,
I thought
okay.
it was interesting. I just made up a bunch of shit. I was like, some guy lived there.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
no.
Well, I mean, you were right about that, even though you were apparently just making it up. I didn't know that until just now. So yeah, I did. I wrote like a little like travel essay, I guess you could say, about Hocking Hills, just because I like it, and I wanted to share something that kind of explained about the place, some of the history, and then also just some tips and stuff about what to see, how to do it, So Hocking Hills, the cool thing about it is that this is literally like hundreds of millions of years in the making. So I'm going to actually tell a little bit more of the geological history than just what I had mentioned in the park. But so as far as the guy living there, we'll start with that. I believe his name was Richard Rowe, but don't quote me on that. Maybe something along those lines. But basically,
I won't quote you, but it's on video.
It's on video, so I'm screwed. It's all right. It's on the internet. So some dude lived there. I want to say like mid 1800s, maybe early 1800s. They don't know where, but he probably built a cabin either in the gorge or on the rim of the gorge, and had lived there for maybe like 10, 20 years or something like that. If I remember right, his brother also lived there briefly, but he is the old man of Old Man's Cave. That's what he's named after. So as far as the geology goes, this is something I find really interesting, just because long-term processes of the earth that you as a human being don't see.
Can't comprehend.
It's amazing to me. So about, if I remember right, around 300 million years ago, Ohio, like especially like southeastern Ohio, was the eastern edge of an ocean that went through the middle of the United States. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, this is pretty common knowledge of this part of it. So specifically, there was a river delta in the Hocking Hills area, which is where a lot of the sand that created the sandstone that is famous for came from. And so this river delta just kind of, it spread out the sand over a while, and then the ocean dried up, and then the sand hardened. And what happened was there were three layers. And so the top and the bottom layer were actually really hard cemented sandstone. And then the middle layer is not so much. And so as water does, it finds its ways into the cracks and crevices, and it started to wear out the middle. The thing that amazes me about Hocking Hills is that you can literally see this, the aftermath of this as you're walking through it. I mean, you're walking past these massive boulders that are some as big as your freaking house. And these were the ceiling of what was once a tunnel that was worn out, that middle layer that got worn out. And obviously after time, those top layers basically started collapsing in, and now they're all on the floor of the gorges and stuff. I've always wondered, like, how many more, like, rock houses, basically, like rock houses, the only actual real cave in Hocking Hills. Everything else is a recessed cave, but it's literally a hole in the side of a cliff. And how many more of those are out there, in that area? There could be all sorts of undiscovered ones that no one even has access to, because there's just these little fissures that water gets into and is worn out of pockets somewhere. So I hope no one's houses fall into any of these. That would be an awful thing to happen, but I wonder, And so the final part of the story for this and how all this formed is 10,000 years ago, the Ice Age ended, and all of these glaciers that had pretty much made it to about Columbus, Ohio area started to recede and melt, and the amount of water that they let off was biblical in scale. Like, this was just torrential floodwaters all of the time. Rivers that never existed were formed. Rivers that ran one direction started running the other direction. The Hocking River actually flowed backwards during this period of time. And so all of that water basically started wearing the hell out of that sandstone. And so when you see things like Ash Cave and Old Man's Cave and Conkle's Hollow, these were basically massive rivers at one point. You can see the giant V's that are cut through those valleys, and those were once full. That to me is mind-boggling. Like, when you see like Ash Cave and you look at how big Ash Cave is,
it's awesome.
that was once a waterfall. That was something on the scale of Niagara Falls at one point. So, and then you see it now, and it's just this little trickle that if you show up on the wrong time of year, there's nothing even coming out of it. So, pretty amazing. But at the same time, like, it's just beautiful, very beautiful.
I've been to Hocking Hills a lot. Like, you've been there more than me for sure.
Yeah,
but we ended our day at, what was it, Conkle's Hollow, which I've not been to in many years, because it just looked completely foreign. The thing with Hocking Hills is kind of like, if you ever been up to northern Michigan to some of the highlights, like Pictured Rocks, or you've been up to any of the real popular areas, in the summer on a weekend.
Yeah.
It's just like you can go there on a Monday morning early and there's like 2 cars in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then you go on a Saturday at noon and you
might not
have
find
to
a
park
parking.
3 miles down the road to get
Right.
to the damn trailhead. Hocking Hills is definitely that way. So,
Right.
so if you have not been to Hocking Hills,
You're missing out.
you're missing out. But if you want a good nature, solitude in nature experience, definitely go during the week.
Yeah.
In not peak times.
Yes.
But
Well, the other thing too to keep in mind too, like so when we went on Sunday, like that was more or less one of the first really nice days we've had in a while. So obviously there's going to be a lot more people out on a day like that. You go like more in the middle of summer when everyone's already they've gotten their nature time and they're not in such a big rush to get out. Like you'll have a less of a crowd even on a weekend than what we experienced during that. But definitely I would say go during the week.
Yeah.
Like, just do it during the week.
And for people that decide to watch it on YouTube, which I would highly recommend because I add a lot of extra stuff on there. I'll put pictures and videos of these places. Mike made a fucking killer video of this place, which we'll definitely put a link to. If you're listening or not, you should check this video out and all the other videos you did.
I agree. Go check it out.
Yeah. Show Mike some love. He just started his YouTube recently. So it's just your name, Mike Balonek.
Yeah, Mike Balonek, Balonek.
Yeah.
Just do a search for it on YouTube.
But so I would say Conkle's Hollow actually surprised me because every time I've been to Hocking Hills in the last 5 years, it's always been super packed. And I'm like, I'm not parking here and walking 1.5 miles down the road just to go here and wait in line to see the end.
Yeah.
But dude, it does not feel like Ohio. It is even your friend came down and she was like, "This is not Ohio." We're like, yes, it's definitely Ohio.
Yeah.
And it's just so mind blowing. So I absolutely love Hocking Hills, but is there any other places that you really kind of love? Let's dial it back because you're a Northwest Ohio native. What are some of your hot spots, Northwest Ohio, that you really like to photograph regularly?
I mean, Oak Openings, I would say, is probably hands down my favorite of all of the parks. Like really close to Toledo,
really close to where I live.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty nice. I would love that. Like, I'm gonna buy a piece of property right on the other side of right outside of the park. That way, I could just walk right in. But
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think that one's definitely gonna be my favorite. I do like the lake. The lake is
Lake Erie.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that it has its issues, it's still beautiful. It's our great lake. We need to appreciate it and respect it. And then, honestly, the more people that go and visit it and see what it's like, the more people that are going to want to clean it up and do something about it, you know? So that's definitely one of my favorites. Mesker Marsh is my favorite on the lake. I don't like to advertise it too much because I can't go there now without running into 1,000 people, especially birding season shows up.
And that's coming up.
You're literally the whole road into the park to the lake, is just lined with cars of people with lenses bigger than your freaking arm.
I think what I think would be a cool idea for us to do this birding season.
Yeah,
is we'll go out and just document the insanity that Northwest Ohio is during birding season.
Yeah.
I'll just interview random ass people with $400,000 worth of camera equipment in their pocket.
Yeah,
that would be fun. But I think there's just so much. We don't have mountains. We don't have oceans, but we have the goddamn Great Lakes.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for? It's
really,
you can drink it because it's clean ass water.
Yeah.
That's what we do drink. B, it's like having an ocean.
Yeah. Just without, as the catchphrase is, no salt, no sharks,
Yeah, exactly. We have big ass, delicious fish.
Yeah.
We have I really get annoyed with people who hate this region. Like you said earlier, yes, we all live here. We understand that we do not have mountains. We do not have Yosemite. We do not have the Colorado River, but we have the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
There's only one Great Lakes. system.
Oh, if you need something else to be proud of too, the Maumee River is the largest watershed on the Great Lakes too. So not only do we have the Great Lakes, but we have the largest watershed of all of the Great Lakes right here too. So that's fantastic right there. You know, I mean, the importance of that to the environment, but also just recreation. You know, all of the just water sports and stuff that's able to be done on the Maumee River because of that. You know, I think that's really cool. And I mean, not to knock it or anything, but as I was saying, it's not trendy. It's just not what people care about, unfortunately. And I think it's great that you're trying to make that popular, and hopefully one day it does, so that way I don't have to worry about traveling to Colorado just to get some pictures that people will like. And to be fair, it's also not all about getting stuff that people like. I mean, there's some beautiful areas here, you know, that are only a couple hours away. You have Hocking Hills, you have Cuyahoga Valley, and plenty of other spots that are lesser known in southeastern Ohio. So, I mean, get out there and check it out. There's this guy that I somewhat recently started following on YouTube, just a little ways into the pandemic. He's a real young kid. His name is Aiden Robbins. Super talented YouTuber. But during the quarantine, he kind of started doing this little, basically promoting the idea of stay at home, you know, explore your home, you know. He had talked about how he had always taken his home area for granted. Granted, he lives in North Carolina, which I would die to live like in a place where there's mountains like that, you know. But he literally can travel to the Smokies like how we travel to Hocking Hills or Cuyahoga Valley, and that's awesome, you know. But the message was to appreciate these places. For him, he came from a background where he was going to Iceland or the Pacific Northwest and stuff like that for his YouTube videos, and then he couldn't travel, and so he had to kind of figure something else out. And in his mind, he thought the Appalachians were apparently boring. I mean, from people like us who don't have mountains, we're like, dude, you're fucking crazy. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? But I would also imagine that there's probably people who think the same thing about us, you know, like people who live in areas where they're just like, you guys have the Great Lakes right there, you know. You have a beautiful river. You can see the sky, you know. You don't have to worry about mountains blocking your view, you know. You can literally go drive anywhere outside of Toledo and you can see the horizon. You can see all of it, you know. So those are definitely advantages to have there. As a photographer, it doesn't create the most variety as far as pictures and stuff like that goes, but it also kind of forces you to be more creative about it too. So like now when I go to oak openings and I go hike the same trails that I've hiked hundreds of times, I have to force myself, like, don't take the same picture you took last week, you know, like find something different about it. Like when we went to the spot that one day, and like I only took like 3 or 4 pictures, I think, the whole time that we were there, but like I was looking for things that I didn't take pictures of before because the spot is such an over-photographed place, like around here, and just generally speaking, people all over the world try to find places that look like it. There's not really a whole lot of unique things you can do for it. So I think that's really an important thing to appreciate around here as well.
Well, the thing that kind of with us Midwest dudes is like we're scrappy as shit because we know we're already behind the time. Like we don't have all the cool shit that a lot of other places have. Right. So we're like we already are willing to work way harder to make shit. And that was something I said to you. We were in Hocking Hills. I was like, I've been here so many damn times. Like I feel like I'm just taking the same picture.
No, I have that issue too.
You really have to like get creative with it and do weird shit, which is really,
I saw you getting down and dirty, literally, like laying in the sand.
Sorry about your car. I probably got mud all over your.
My car's already dirty. Dude, this is my travel vehicle. Like I've been to so many places in there. Like it's already filthy.
But one of the things I really like that you specifically, like I've been to Hocking Hills always on my own. It's never been with somebody who's also just been there and like, I love this place. You know a lot of places that are kind of off the beaten path. What are your just kind of favorite places that are like that aren't like Hocking Hills parking lot, like you just pull off to a tourist area and go check it out?
Like so we were talking about this as we were leaving. there's Hocking Hills State Park, but it's surrounded by Hocking State Forest.
Yeah.
And the state forest has a lot of opportunities for hiking, horseback riding, and I think they have like some like ATV trails and stuff like that too. I'm not positive, but there's a lot of opportunities for outdoor stuff like outside of the park. And for me personally, like, that was what you were saying earlier about taking the same picture over and over. That was the reason why I started exploring some of that stuff. There's a gentleman, I'm not positive where he's from, but I know he's like generally that area. Kerry Sherrill. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but he's fairly popular. He's got like tens of thousands of followers, and dude basically like explores the Hocking area. Like, he'll get into some of the like state nature preserves that are off limits. Like, he'll get a permit and be able to go into there. Like, no trails or anything. He just wanders through the woods to find waterfalls and take pictures of. So having been following him doing this for a long time, like, I see all of these amazing pictures of these places. I'm just like, well, where the hell is this? You know, like, this isn't Hocking Hills State Park, you know, this isn't Old Man's Cave. I know that much. And I'd reached out to him numerous times anyways, just because I liked his work. And so I started to kind of pick up on where these were at. And there was a period of time where he started, he was trying to make a book, actually, I believe, of all of these waterfalls. And he had found, I think, over 100 waterfalls in the Hocking area that he was going to use for this book. But then he started finding that people were going and trashing the waterfalls that he was promoting online. And so, unfortunately, now he does not share the locations of any of these waterfalls. And for me personally, I don't necessarily agree with that move. I think
that's a trend. That's a thing.
Yeah,
people are doing
it's definitely
now.
like it kind of pisses me off because we've talked about this. Don't tell people or don't deny people where the location is, because they're going to figure it out anyways. Teach them how to use the resources properly, you know, like leave no trace, that sort of thing. These are important things we need to be discussing as people who are promoting the outdoors, whether you're a photographer or a podcaster or whatever. Don't deny people the outdoors. Teach them to use it properly. So
I actually said that.
I know you said that.
Quote for quote, basically what you just said on my friend James' podcast, 4646 podcast.
Yeah.
I literally drove to friggin' New York to go and hang out with him, and like we had this long discussion about like, yes, I get it.
Yeah, 100%.
I do not like to see trash on the trails. But at this point in my life, I just accept it because it happens.
Yeah.
Like, you get a family.
I mean, sometimes it's not even like in the park, you know. Sometimes these are things that are just getting washed downstream, you know.
With how much water is flowing through that area. But, like, yes, we were in Ash Cave. I saw a water bottle.
Yeah.
I didn't get pissed off and throw a shit fit about people. Oh, my God, they're polluting. You know, I picked up the damn water bottle and threw it away like an adult. Like, I do, like, a lot of the places like popular like that are always going to have trash. It's just part of the gig. Like,
but especially when there's kids coming, because frankly, kids can be irresponsible.
Hell yeah. I always assume, I never assume in my head when I see trash, I never assume that somebody just threw it on the ground.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I have nieces and nephews. I have, you know, family members that are young. And
I've seen grown adults do it too.
Yeah,
but
you set a water bottle down, so they're like, hey, Johnny, hurry up. What are you doing? We got to go. He forgets the water. He takes off. It's a full water bottle. Like, who's going to leave that?
Right.
And then he's probably in his car thirsty as hell. Like, shit, I forgot my water bottle.
Yeah.
So
doesn't even know where it's at.
I don't, like, the amount of trash we saw at Hocking Hills was, I think we picked up like 2 or 3 water bottles. It wasn't like this big, it wasn't like, I carried out a backpack full of trash.
Right.
And there are places like that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I go to Mesker and it's like that, but that's all stuff washing ashore. Yeah,
and if people do trash it, well, they're douchebags, and they're probably the huge minority.
It's definitely a minority, yeah.
Like, so I totally get. I'm not talking shit out this guy. I mean, obviously, like he's. It's to the point where it's frustrated him enough that he said, "Screw it."
Yeah.
But like, I mean, part of it is like, maybe it is an adventure. Now you have to go find it for yourself. But part of it is like, you know, as people who are bringing the outdoors to other people, like, it is our responsibility. It's not their responsibility. It's our responsibility to be like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Or if you do see trash out there, instead of just walking over it and being like, man, this person's a dick, you can be like, hey, I'm just going to throw it in my backpack because I have like a 2/10 of a mile walk back to my car. It's not that big of a deal.
Not. It really isn't.
Yeah, sorry to rant about that, but that drives me
No, that is an
up
important
the
thing to
damn
talk
wall.
about, though. I think that does need to be discussed more. Because it is an issue. Like, we shouldn't try to deprive people of the outdoors. We should be encouraging. I mean, for me, my thing is like, if you're going to inspire somebody to do something, you need to give them all the tools to be able to do it, you know? And that includes the knowledge and understanding of how to protect these places, and that, yeah, your one bottle of water that you threw on the ground or your little candy wrapper is just one thing. But say you have 30 people do that, and then you have a bunch more keep doing it over time, eventually you're just going to have a pile of trash there, and nobody wants to deal with that. So I would say the same about like people carving their initials into things. I don't care who you love. It's not my business. And frankly, you're probably not even with that person anymore. But just think about the next person that's got to come and look at that. You know, it's just very simple.
That does suck. Like, that'll never go away.
It won't. It literally has been going on since the beginning. Like, I remember, like, Ken Burns did the National Parks documentary.
Amazing.
Like, yeah,
Holy
great
shit.
documentary. If you've never seen it, definitely check that out. But yeah, that's one of the things. Like, from the very beginning, people were doing that. They had to bring in the army to stop people from doing that shit. So it'll always happen, I'm sure. Dumbasses are everywhere.
There's two of them in this room right now. But yeah, man, I really, we're running pretty long here, but
yeah. How long have we been going for?
For at least an hour. Yeah, an hour and 2 minutes actually. Oh, but that's fine. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, I'm having a good time.
The thing that really kind of threw me for a loop is you just came out of nowhere doing video. Like, I've never seen you post a video before, and all of a sudden you're just like, Mike, I got a YouTube channel. It's like, I saw it pop up on my YouTube. I was posting these damn podcasts, and it's like shit you might like. It was like, Mike.
Really?
And I was like, I fucking know Mike.
Hell, the algorithm's working for me.
Yeah. Only two people in Northwest Ohio making YouTube videos about the... No, but...
there's some pretty good YouTubers
cinematography that you're doing right now is just blowing me away. It's so
Thank
good.
you.
That's why I was so stoked to get out with you.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? When did that start?
I mean, video-wise, like, I mean, we already discussed earlier about the Midwest Metal Show. Like, I've been doing video for a while.
Yeah.
I have not been doing video well for very long, but I've been doing video for a while.
I could say the same thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it all kind of started like, this is another one of those I'm kicking myself moments. Like, I had the foresight to see that eventually people would stop watching TV and start watching content exclusively online, like Netflix style, long before there was a Netflix. And so I had actually at one point started creating like a channel that I wanted to make of just content, different kinds of shows and stuff like that. And Midwest Metal Show was one of them. There was a couple others that were just goofy, stupid shit, but they were all just little things that I was slowly working on. And like I said, I had just a little Sony Handycam. It wasn't anything special. Just shot HD video. That was all I cared about. Yeah. Did some stuff with that for a little while. Used iMovie, I think, as a video editor. And I mean, not to say anything bad about iMovie. It is completely great. Makes it so simple. If that's the kind of tool that you want, going back to what I said earlier about learning the process and what to do, that's a great way to get started. But I did that for a long time. Kind of just same with photography. It was kind of an on and off thing. Recently, though, I've kind of been thinking about ways to kind of not reinvent myself, but photography is oversaturated. Like, everybody takes pictures. Everybody has a cell phone that can take pretty decent quality pictures these days. So trying to make a living as a photographer when businesses especially would rather use free photography from people who are basically taking pictures for fun rather than professional photographers basically put me in a position where I needed to come up with a new gimmick, more or less. So I had already had experience with video and I had enjoyed doing it. I really like editing video. And so it was kind of, I mean, I've been watching Peter McKinnon for a while and I watched him grow into a YouTuber doing all this fancy ass B-roll and shit like that. And I was like, you know what? Like, it's basically like taking pictures except they're moving. I can do that. And so I started messing with it. Honestly, behind the scenes, I've been working on this for a year before I even released anything.
Yeah.
Nobody had seen any of the videos that I had done, but it was just for myself, learning the process, learning how to create, and like actually learning, like not just with a little Sony Handycam and iMovie, but like trying to learn Premiere Pro and how to use the features of Premiere Pro, how to learn to use the features of my camera, like I went out and bought a Z6 specifically because this was Canon or Nikon's like great movie video camera, like it was supposed to be able to have all of the features that I needed, and so for me, like that was a good way to go, and so I started learning all of that stuff, and now here I am.
Yeah, and it's really impressive what you're doing. It's going to turn into, I think it'll be awesome. I mean, it just down the road, it's hard to grow.
I mean, I'm still learning, so I know I have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, I mean, that's with any of us, though. I mean, if you look at my first podcast video, it sucks.
Oh, yeah.
This one will suck in 5 years.
I'm not agreeing, but I know how it is, Like when you first start, everybody sucks, and that's how you get better,
Well, it's all about adapting, too. Like, so I started the channel because I was doing, like, a bunch of freelance shit. I was still working, like, a normal 9 to 5.
Right.
And I was really into videos, so I started doing freelance stuff just on the side, like, nothing that I've went out to like, I'm gonna find work. Like it just kind of came to me. And then the place I work now, where we're sitting, is like they wanted a podcast, and I was like, never done a podcast, but I understand how theoretically they should go.
Right.
So like it was just this big learning curve, and it's the same approach that you've done. I've been full into it, and now we went from like shooting on a shitty like GoPro Hero 3 and a Hero Plus, like just these old cameras I had laying around, to we've updated, like we got in 4K, we've got Shure SM7B, like $400 microphones.
Beautiful microphones.
So yeah, we're like, it's all a process, like y'all get there, and that's something like I really want people to understand, is like, you don't have to be that good right away. Like you just eat shit for a couple of years. Like that's
really it.
Aptitude Outdoors started in 2016. I just now am starting to get a couple followers, like, which is great. I love all these people that are taking the time to listen to my dumb ass rant about the outdoors on my channel. So like,
now you got some good stuff.
Dude, like that's why I have faith in what you're doing, because like the podcasting and the content creation side of it, like, okay, I learned my shit through the hard knocks school. Like I've broken cameras, I've crashed drones, I've
so far so good.
Yeah, you're lucky on that one. Like I've spent the hours.
Very lucky on Sunday too.
Yeah, you did some,
I had some really close
drone
calls.
shots. But you learn the process, and then all of a sudden you get all these people like, oh, you're so lucky. It must be awesome to be able to do a pod. Like I got a job podcasting because I made a podcast. Like, and they saw it and they're like, I want this for my business, basically.
Right.
So it's like,
and that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to make videos that basically businesses will be able to look at and be like, that'd be kind of nice.
Yeah.
I'd do that.
Because before I did the podcast for the business, I made my own for like a 6-month period to like try and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's just, I fucking love it.
Right.
So like, that's the same road you're going down. I doubt that at any time you'll have a fucking badass.
I appreciate
following
that.
and
I appreciate
stuff.
the faith.
Yeah, it's just, I see it though. Like the quality's there. It's just people need to see it.
That's kind of how I feel too. Like like I said, I know I still have a long way to grow, but I also feel like I'm putting out fairly quality stuff. Like not like Peter McKinnon or any of these guys level, but like for a schmo from Toledo, like I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. And on that note, I love that all of your stuff is super easy to find because it's just your names. But why don't you let people know where they can find you on the internet, especially your YouTube channel, which is sweet.
Yes. I'm sure you'll have the link down below. So Mike Balonek Photos on Instagram. So my name is spelled M-I-K-E, Mike, B-A-L-O-N-E-K. All one word, photos.com is my web address too. Actually, no, I don't have MikeBalonekPhotos.com anymore. I forgot. I just changed it to Mike Balonek because I do more than photos now. So so it made sense. So MikeBalonek.com is my website. Mike Balonek Photos on Instagram and Facebook, and then you can also find me just Mike Balonek on YouTube.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I'm excited to do some more traveling and photography because, like, I like to work with photographers that are better than me because you can show me shit that I suck at. So
I mean, I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of mutual learning going on. For me, it's not like a competition. Like, I'm not like trying to be, I'm the best photographer in the world, you know. Literally anybody has something to teach me, you know, like whether it's just, oh, that was a cool idea for a shot. You know, I never would have thought about doing something like that, to like, holy crap, like your entire workflow was revolutionary, you know, like literally everything from there to there, you know, so you never know. And I look forward to doing that.
Yeah.
We'll learn some stuff from each other, and
they'll be seeing plenty of vlogs and travel bullshit from us in the time coming up.
I hope so.
All right, on that note, man, appreciate it. I'll talk to you probably every day for the next 6 months. And
that's cool with me.
Some cool shit. So make sure you guys check out Mike's stuff on not only YouTube, but on Instagram. I don't think you do. You're on Facebook too a little bit, not too much.
I hate Facebook, so I don't post on it a lot, but every once in a while I'll get a wild hair up my ass and I'll start posting for a couple weeks. So go check it out just in case I do.
Absolutely. So peace out, everyone. We will see you next time.
Adios.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this episode of the Aptitude Outdoors podcast. If you can, help me out. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're feeling super spunky today, head over to iTunes and leave the podcast a rating or review. I really want to thank Mike for coming on and sharing his stories and knowledge about outdoors photography and his travels and his just love for Hocking Hills. It's one of my favorite places. It's one of his favorite places here in Ohio. So if you've never checked out Hocking Hills, I highly recommend it. And head over to Mike's YouTube channel and subscribe as well. He's making awesome videos about the Midwest and just all the awesome nature we have to offer here. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.